Mainstage-Incubator.
Yes.
Mainstage-Incubator basically started off because of the deep connection I personally had with India. But, and building an innovation bridge between India and Germany sounded like a huge task. But, alone I couldn't have done it. So, I spoke to Ben Shera, he's a co-founder, also Devashi Chakraborty, in building that ecosystem on both sides, in Germany and India. I used to do sales as a service before. I helped a few Indian startups, but because those startups didn't get a lot of mentoring, there was this small gap which needed to be closed. And this gap is being closed by Mainstage-Incubator. So we're not just helping companies to scale into Europe, we're helping them with matchmaking sessions, with presentation revamps or tweaks, but we're also helping with culturalization, right? Would you guys would like to add anything to that?
Yeah, for me, like when he approached me, I was immediately hooked because I think the world is global, we have to think globally. And one thing, when I worked in venture capital and later I went to start own companies or work in startups, because I like the whole operational part. And I also told him when we first met or talked about it, I think from the incubators normally it's a very small limited program and it's just a process that they're giving. They're not giving the hands-off operational support. And then there are people that are giving investments, but they're also not helping them fully grow into what they could be. And mixing this, that's what I'm bringing into it, with the view from an investor, being very skeptical about it, but then also being the entrepreneur inside, trying to find a way to help them. And that's, I think, where we all fit together.
So, being in the startup ecosystem for the last 7 years, founded 2 startups, this is the 3rd one. The biggest problem which we are trying to solve for the Indian startup ecosystem is all about creating a value in terms of which can be tangibly quantified. So when we talk about the startups who are coming here and the problems which we had faced in the past, it's purely been about the absence of knowledge of the market. It can be India, it can be outside India. And that's what creates the startups, the difference between a basic small company and a global company. And that is the problem which we are trying to solve. We are trying to bring the market to the startup and ensure that the startup flourishes in that market.
Okay, and given that your varies, all 3 of you have different backgrounds, how did you meet up and what brought you together?
Definitely. So 2 years ago I met Devashish at an event here in Bangalore, and it was quite an interesting connection. It was also kind of a startup ecosystem. We stayed in touch, and then when Mainstage-Incubator was in the founding phase, I just thought that he's the ideal person to look after the Indian community, build the Indian community, give that mentorship which he has in the experience. Ben and I, we know each other since 1.5 years. We used to work in the same company, and back then I really identified that Ben is a process-driven, strategic operations person, but he's also really good with finances, with financial workshops. He knows his stuff. I have done 10 years of enterprise sales, so all 3 of us together, we make a perfect company or the perfect co-founders.
So, what next for you?
What next? That's a good question. So, while we've been building up the innovation bridge between India and Germany, we've been getting quite a lot of mail and attention from other countries, even from South America. So when we fly back, we have a meeting with the ambassador from Argentina. He would like to have an innovation bridge. We've had requests from Japan, from Australia, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka. So the word is spreading out. Obviously, we are 3 people now. How do we scale? So we scale. In the local country in Germany, we have a sales partner. We're recruiting more sales partners, and soon we will also have offices in the US, in London, in Ireland. Ideally, in the next month in Bangalore as well. Our India headquarters will be here in Bangalore, and then we might open up small satellite offices throughout India.
So, how many mentee companies were there this time around, and how many had applied for it?
For the summer.
For the mentorship.
For the mentorship. So actively we are having 5 startups who are launching with us, all from different domains, and it's nice. It's a mixed domain. We also have a B2B SaaS startup called Leadsen, which is, again, it is tech, but it's also very focused sales. But we have still a list of interesting startups who want to work with us, and that is around 50 startups. And once I think we scale our operations, once we get all the partners onboarded, we will then bring them on board, which will be by June.
So adding to what Sven was saying about is that what we are trying to do with all the interest coming from various geographies, we're bifurcating them between developed and developing. So one becomes a supply base for innovation and another becomes a consumer for innovation. So that's the way we are trying to bridge this entire thing. So when we are talking about the consumer of innovation, that's when Sven comes with the skill sets of B2B sales and enterprise sales. When we talk about the supplier of innovation, that's when I came in and identifying these particular startups. Where Ben comes in is the bridging that entire gap in terms of processes, in terms of giving the compliance relations to the startups, giving them mentorship about what to do next, how to scale up, how to make them company ready, how do you graduate from a startup to an organization. That's what Ben is going to bring in. So what we are trying to bring in is a cultural angle which Sven is working on. He is bringing in graduating the company, maturing the startup. What I am bringing on board is creating a pipeline of innovation for our main stage.
So would you have any more, when would you have your next main stage in India?
So that is a good
Or how
question.
often would it
Sure.
happen?
You mean another event? So our goal is this year to have at least another 4 to 5 events. We will be focusing on tier 2 or even tier 3 cities, because there's, like Debashish mentioned yesterday during our dinner or in another press meeting, there's a lot of technology which has not been identified but might be there. So we're going to go to those cities and look around and show them the value. And maybe to add on top of that, I just spoke with Abhijit Sinha. He's very interested to signing an MOU with us, so we might sign an MOU today as well.
So to add what Sven is talking about is events will be in two types. One is an event where we are bringing the awareness in terms of startups, which will be in this part of the geography, and there will be events in the other part of the geography in terms of Europe, in terms of consumer-driven geographies, where we'll be looking at showcasing our startups, taking them to multiple different kinds of events.
Okay.
So there are two kinds of events, but here, as a strategy, since it's Bangalore, we started off as a flagship event, but typically we would in future be concentrating on tier 2 and tier 3 towns.
So would you be going in for any stake? Will you be taking any stakes in any of these startups?
So
that you are
taking stake is not our core model, so we don't look at the equity. We have a service retainer model, which the startups can pay us. We have some success fee-based model, but sometimes there might be startups who do not have the funding to go on a service retainer model. There we do offer tiny bit of stake in the company and still the success rate. And or there's another model where we take a higher success rate fee, and once the startup generates revenue for us in 6 months, we then convert them into a retainer model. So there are different aspects on how we can onboard startups and help them.
So, see, the overline principle is to help the startups. So, but at the same time, have a skin in the game. Because if they succeed, we succeed. It cannot be an equity model, because equity model is a very long tail business. What we are talking about is a retainer model where there is definitely some amount of accountability from both sides. There is expectations from both sides. That is what we are here to deliver.
So, yeah, I think that's
Perfect.
just about it. Is there something else you wanted to share that I may not have asked?
Maybe I'd like to say, maybe to every startup founder in India, if you do want to scale your business into Europe, if you need the mentorship, if you are coachable, and you do want to scale, get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you.